I am very happy to have my next guest join us. You may recognize him. He was the lead singer of the Mowgli's for quite a number of years. Now working on his own new project called Little Hurt. It is Colin Dieden.
Hello.
Hey, Colin. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I'll lead right off the bat. I mean, everybody's talking about it. Where are you? How are you? How have you been during the teen?
I'm in LA, and my phone alarm is going off. It says interview.
Oh, nice.
So I just got up to turn that off.
Very prompt.
I'm very on point, man.
That's typical rock star stuff because this interview was supposed to have started 4 minutes ago.
I love that my alarm went off literally into the interview. I need a better me. I'm good. I'm in LA and hanging out, doing the best I can under the circumstances.
A lot of people take this whole shelter in place differently. A lot of songwriters, they need to be in their own head and they need to have the peace and quiet. But then others like the distractions because that's where they find muses, that's where they find a lot of things that inform their music or art. How about you?
It kind of when this thing first started, I couldn't write anything. I was like, I've said this a few times. There's nothing sexy or cool about a global pandemic. Like I was like, what am I going to write about? And it took me a few weeks to write a song. I didn't write anything. I sat there and I was like, what do I have a job anymore? Like, what am I, like, what's my, and then as things I kind of settled into what was happening, I was able to start writing again. But this has been easier for me, I think, than like a lot of my friends. I'm a pretty introverted person, so I don't love leaving the house.
Some people feel pressure. I think a lot of artists also feel pressure now because everybody's saying the same thing. Like, oh, this is a great time for you to be in your head and you should be writing hundreds of songs. My
parents, every time I talk to them, how many songs, like, there's so much to write about. I'm like, Dad, then you write the songs. I can't say that word, right? Sorry.
You could say whatever you want. There's a lot of censorship going on nowadays. And obviously with a lot of different things that have been going on with obviously we started with the virus and then now, with the big Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of social justice calling and things. And you're in LA. Did you participate in any of the protests or were you involved in some way?
I did. I went to one to a march in Hollywood. And I was out there and with everyone and it was amazing. I mean, LA is a kind of like a epicenter for that. I mean, it was huge here, it's been incredible to like see people stand up and, like it's been awesome to watch the reaction. Like a lot of artists that wouldn't take a stance before. Like a lot of artists are like, I don't want to like lose my fan base to like, if I say like, I don't support Donald Trump, I'm afraid I'm not going to sell tickets in Arkansas. Like a lot of people don't have that option anymore. If you have to pick a side, there's no neutral. There's no, like, if you don't pick a side, you're on the wrong side. That's how I feel. And I love that, like, this has been a very glaring moment where, like, people have had, it's polarizing where, listen, if you don't speak up, then we know what side you're on. And I love that.
So this project, Little Hurt, you actually have been doing this for some time. It started, early last year or maybe even the year before that, and then it became public and you released a few songs?
Yeah, so I started it while I was still in the Mowgli's. Kind of. I was thinking about starting something new. I didn't know what it looked like, what that meant. And then I wrote a song one day and all my friends were like, this is not the Mowgli's, this is you. And so I just started chasing that down. It was a whole different story, a whole different attitude,
Was there a catalyst? Was there a particular moment in your life that kind of gave you that motivation to put those words, metaphorically speaking, on paper?
Sure. I mean, so when I started the Mowgli's, I was probably 18, and I wasn't even able to get into the bars we played. I had to like get snuck in the back door or a fake ID. I was so young, and like life is very, very, very sunny through the optic of a very stoned 18-year-old. And then as life progresses and you experience new stuff, like you create depth of character and like, you get hurt, you experience heartbreak, you go through things that make life a little more complicated, but that kind of like builds your character. And so when I was 18 and I started the Mowgli's, I hadn't experienced anything. I was like, okay, cool. I'm like young and in love with every girl I see on the street, and life is great, right? But then you go through some stuff, and that's where I'm at now. Is that like this is like just the progression of me as an artist, I think.
How much do you think of some of the hurt and some of the challenges that you faced in life were part of being in the music industry versus living in a metropolis with millions of people that you can interact with, strangers to become acquaintances, friends? Because you hear about the Hollywood rat race and the experience that you can get in terms of success at a younger age. We've seen that tragic Hollywood story millions of times, and it's so obvious in music especially, right? Because as an artist, as someone that is so connected to your emotions, we can see that plain as day in the music, whether sonically or if we read into the lyrics.
I mean, I think if I didn't do what I did for the last 10 years, I wouldn't have these stories. Like three of my big, like people always say, like, you love writing songs about cities, like, or like states, like Alaska, San Francisco, Kansas City. But I'm like, dude, I've been traveling for 10 years. Like, what am I going to write about? Wakeboarding? Like, I travel for a living. I don't, you know what I'm saying? So I put myself, that's a very good question. I think that if I had not done this and just like sat still and worked some insurance job, I probably wouldn't have been in like such, I don't know, like put myself in moments where I was like, I put myself through a lot of stuff getting here. Like, it's very, very, very lonely to be stuck on a tour bus in Idaho on Christmas. It's very lonely to fall out of love with the girl that you were in love with, and she leaves you in Dallas and walks away. Like, I wouldn't have been in these situations. I probably would have had a much more stable thing, but I chose the path of most resistance. And I think that my job, like as a not just an artist, but as a person, a citizen of planet Earth, is like, all I can do is tell my story as authentically as possible, what it's like to be Colin Dieden living at this moment in time.
Where were you when you wrote Alaska? Because that's the one that's getting a lot of exposure right now, resonating on radio, a lot of streams.
I was in LA. It's Alaska like isn't really about, Alaska is just like you can like replace it with any word. Nebraska, like someplace in Russia. It doesn't matter. Alaska it seemed very far away. And I was sitting there writing a song with my friends, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go. And it just seemed like in that moment, an impossibly far away place. And also, it sang really well. It sounds good, which is important. I mean, I write pop songs. But Alaska seemed like I just wanted to leave everything behind me, and that seemed very far away.
Right. I don't think we have to read too much into the lyrics to get that. Of course, we appreciate the shout out to San Francisco. You seem to have a penchant for writing about San Francisco.
I fell in love with San Francisco, man. When the first time I went there, I wrote that song when I was 19 or something. I fell in love with San Francisco. I wrote it. You know where I wrote it? At the in the Tenderloin at the Red Roof Inn. I had no money. I had no money at that time in my life. Like, I wouldn't stay there now, but when I was 19, that's where I stayed. And I was on the roof of that hotel, literally on the roof of the Red Roof Inn, and I wrote that song. And I came there, I was so inspired by the city. I was like, this is the place for me forever. And then I was like, I don't want to spend like $19,000 a day on an apartment. So.
But hey, you were a big time rock star. You could afford anything.
Big time rock star, baby.
Well, we're really excited for what you have going on with this project. The music is sonically joyful, but yet it gives us something to really read into. And I feel more connected to you now more than ever.
Honestly, it's one of my favorite interviews ever. So thank you for talking to me.
Oh, awesome.
You're awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck with everything. Stay healthy, and look forward to the new music.
I'll see you in San Francisco soon.